On this episode of the Red and Gold Report, we're going to be looking at the contract negotiation stalemate between the Chiefs and left tackle Orlando Brown that has an urgent deadline of this Friday. And yes, I'm finally back after a month away, traveling with the family, spending time with my kids, and yeah, being sick. And it's great to be back talking about our Chiefs again. So make sure you hit the subscribe button, the like buttons, all the good buttons to get the Red and Gold Report. So this Friday at 3 o'clock p.m. Arrowhead time is the official deadline for franchise players in the NFL to sign long-term extensions. Now, if there's no deal in place, then the players' only options are to just not play that season or to play on their one-year assigned franchise contract. Now, the Chiefs, of course, franchise tagged their starting left tackle Orlando Brown. And then in the media, all the Chiefs brass told us for the last months that they were really hopeful, really positive about getting a deal done. But for months, I've been saying on this channel that this contract negotiation was always destined to get really ugly. And, well, here we are. We're just days from the deadline, and it does not look like a long-term deal between the Chiefs and Orlando Brown is going to happen. Now, credible sources claim that at this point, Chiefs left tackle Orlando Brown is asking for over $25 million per year in this new huge contract extension that he's hoping for, which would place him well ahead of all other offensive linemen in the NFL. And yeah, I'm not going to beat around the bush here. That's completely and utterly delusional. I did a video a bit back on a statistical analysis of Orlando Brown's play, and it's really clear. Brown is an above average tackle in the NFL, but he is not great. And he's not even close to being in a conversation about being elite. He allows about twice the pressures of an elite tackle. So, of course, the Chiefs, not being completely stupid, are refusing to pay him the requested king's ransom. And you know what? It's a bit nuts that Orlando is even asking for that much. And really, in the negotiation room, it makes things impossible because you've got someone who's asking for something that clearly you can't give them. So what do you do with that? Now, to make matters even worse, Orlando drug his feet on hiring an agent, meaning that negotiations were just unnecessarily delayed multiple months. Then when he hired one, he hired Michael Portner of Delta Sports Group, a guy who, according to NBC Sports, has never had a single NFL client. So it's a surprise to absolutely no one except Orlando himself that the two sides are not even close on a long-term deal, even though the deadline to sign a franchise player to a multi-year extension is right around the corner. This Friday, July 15th. So with a long-term deal all but out, where in the world do we go from here? Seriously, what's going to happen? What's going to happen next? This is very important. This is our starting left tackle. He's an important player, an important position. It's got to get taken care of. What is going to happen? Well, there's actually several different possibilities. So let's talk through them. First, Orlando could finally cave and sign his one-year franchise tag this week. Now, this is a good avenue, I think, at this point for all parties involved. Brown would get $16.7 million this year, which would be protected in case of injury. He'd also get another year to try to prove that he's worth so much money to teams around the league after failing to do so last year, and he'd then become a free agent next year in 2023. On the Chiefs' end, of course, they'd get their starting left tackle back for this year and a year to figure out how they want to address this position moving forward. Now, that's what I hope is going to happen. But if Orlando Brown has proved anything in this process, is that he's thinking about as clearly as a sorority girl on spring break, right? So several other things could happen in the coming months. The second possibility of where we go from here is that Brown could just refuse to play all season. Well, I don't think that's going to happen. The third possibility is that Brown and the Chiefs reach this last-minute extension agreement, but that's not going to happen either if you believe anything you read online right now. So the fourth possibility is that Brown signs with another team because the Chiefs actually slapped the non-exclusive franchise tag on Brown. He technically can negotiate a contract with a different team, but that would require that team to cough up 2 first-round picks, which nobody in their right mind is going to do. So that's not going to happen either. That brings us to the fifth and most likely possibility that Brown could decide to drag his feet and wait to sign the franchise tag. If a franchised player wants to still play in the current season, they technically don't have to sign until just after week 10 of that season. So he could decide to miss even more than half the season and still get paid some money this year and still play this year. Or more probably, he could decide to just miss training camp and preseason, come back like week 1, 2, 3, whatever you want to talk about. Now, I actually think that this is a terrible option, even though it's the most likely option. And it's the most terrible option because of Brown's weaknesses. One of Brown's greatest struggles is that he's kind of in bad shape. Like he doesn't have good conditioning and his weight gets out of control. And if he thinks he's going to just miss training camp, miss that conditioning time and just roll into week 1 of the regular season a Twinkie away from 400 pounds and play well enough to earn the largest offensive lineman contract ever, not going to happen, right? But again, this is the most likely event. Brown doesn't sign the 1-year franchise tender until he feels like showing up, which would likely mean he skips some or all of the preseason camp and, preseason games, camp time, and then he comes back, looks even worse than he did last season, and he doesn't ever get that massive contract he wanted. Like, that really could happen. But there's a sixth option, an option that I guarantee you the Chiefs have had closed door discussions about, but are never going to talk about publicly. And this option is to trade Brown. In this scenario, the Chiefs come to grips with the fact that an above average but not great tackle is asking for the biggest contract ever of an offensive lineman, and that it'd be Lemmings level stupid to give it to him. So they just trade him. They let a team like the Jaguars, Jets, Commanders negotiate with him, and then they trade him away. Maybe a first rounder, but more likely like a second and third rounder in 2023. They then the Chiefs go out and sign a veteran left tackle to a 1-year deal, like, the aging but still pretty effective Dwayne Brown. However, I will say that due to Orlando Brown really dragging his feet on hiring an agent, delaying the start of negotiations, he really shot himself in the foot here. Like, this would have been a possibility of getting traded somewhere else to sign a bigger deal, kind of like Tyreek did, a little different because it's a franchise tag, but, kind of like he did in being able to negotiate an extension with a different team and then get traded to that team after you've already negotiated with it. But this is really difficult because, well, there's less and less time for this to happen. Like, it would probably need to happen before Friday, and he kind of hosed himself delaying the beginning of the negotiations so much. So that is the 6 different possibilities of what might happen with Brown and this contract stalemate. But what do you think? Do you think the Chiefs should wait this one out and let Brown hold out until he signs the 1-year deal at whatever time that is? Or do you think the Chiefs should cave, give him a massive extension? Or do you think that they should cut their losses and trade the guy? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching the Red and Gold Report. Make sure you like, subscribe, hit the notification bell thing. Thanks for watching, and go Chiefs!